caregivers. But, you know, we're also looking for people to join our team. So this is one of those avenues that somebody can learn, become a better caregiver, and then have the opportunity to maybe decide if they'd like to join us and help some of their clients out.
Wonderful. So I didn't look into your company or home. Do you guys just do home care providing?
Yeah, I'll actually get into that here in a second. But yeah, we're what's called non-medical home care. So
Okay.
we put caregivers in the home.
Okay. Watching these webinars, could this be applied to our license?
For your CNA?
Yes, sir.
Not necessarily the one today. Now,
Okay.
you know, if you, another shameless plug, if you were to join our agency and work with us, we actually offer 12 continuing education credits every year.
Okay.
And the vast majority of those are available through our online learning system.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I've noticed that with several other companies. I've just been doing CNA since 2018.
Okay.
So, and was in Virginia and then returned to Texas.
Okay.
So, you know, different laws, different rules, regulations in both states. But I do know that you have to take so many hours of continuing educations to keep your license.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you.
Is your name, do I pronounce it Sherry or Shari?
It's Sherry. Thank you. And
Okay.
who am I speaking with?
What's that?
And who am I speaking with?
I'm Matt. I'm the owner of the ComForCare Home Care here in New Braunfels.
Okay, Matt.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you in a little tiny part at the bottom of my
little
phone.
tiny video.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we go ahead and get started, Matt?
Okay, great. So we've already kind of done our little introductions and everything. So welcome. I'm glad that you've joined us. Our focus today, like I said, is twofold. One is to help increase the level of care, the quality of care in the community in general, with our focus really leveraging our Dementia-wise program that we have within ComForCare Home Care. And the other reason is for you to have an opportunity to get to know our agency a little bit better, and maybe even consider how you might kind of come on board and see if you can help some of our clients. I'm Matt. I'm the owner of ComForCare Home Care here in New Braunfels. My wife and I actually own the agency, and we have been taking care of clients in the area here since the end of 2015.
215.
Yeah. A little bit about our ComForCare Home Care in general. We are part of an overall franchise system. Each of our locations is individually owned and operated. So I own the ComForCare that services the corridor between San Antonio and Austin. So if you're familiar enough with the area, it sounds like you're on North San Antonio. Are you inside 410 or are you outside 1604?
Outside of 1604, because it
Okay.
is just down the road. I'm close to New Braunfels, Kamal County.
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe
so
that's
you're
in your area.
Okay, so you're kind of near, are you near like Spring Branch and Garden Ridge area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, we service that area. Like I was saying earlier, we're considered non-medical home care. So we provide both companion and personal care services, primarily to seniors in their home. And home for our clients can be anywhere, whether it's their home, as you would normally traditionally see it, or if they're living in a facility somewhere, or even another family member's home. Wherever they need the help, that's where we go.
Oh, wow.
To delineate between non-medical and what's considered medical home care, a lot of folks are familiar with what's called home health, to be easily confused with home care. Home health is the medical side, and they put nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, they go out into the home 1 or 2 visits a week or so, paid by Medicare, and they help with therapy or any kind of skilled care that's needed. But they're not able to stay long enough to provide the companionship, to help with activities of daily living outside of what's necessary for the therapy or the skilled care. So that's where an agency like ours comes into play. We basically step in, we augment the home health side of the house. And we actually, the easiest way for me to explain it is that we basically become another family member in the home. Whatever a family member would do with mom or dad, we can do as well with just a couple specific things that our license does not allow us to do. We do specialize specifically in dementia care. Among all the other care that we support, we do have a live and active dementia-wise program that allows our caregivers to have a better understanding of how to work with dementia clients, which is you'll learn a very small snippet of what we train our caregivers on today. In terms of the caregivers that work for us, we put our caregivers first. So you would think a lot of agencies like ours put clients first. We put both first. And there are actually times where we've actually supported a caregiver over an unsafe situation with clients. So our caregivers are first and foremost for us. We pay them well. We recognize and reward them for the hard work that they do, and they go above and beyond. We provide training. Like I said, we offer 12 CEs a year, plus there's hundreds of other training available online for our caregivers. And our focus is that we're all a family, and we help other families to be able to care for their family member. And specifically to us, we kind of have what I call our meets minimum standards care plan. And our caregivers wear a bracelet that has the words safe, known, and loved written on it. And our caregivers, if they can promise that when they leave a client's home, that they kept their client safe, that their client was known, that they were meaningfully engaged with, and that they ultimately felt loved, then you have done everything that we could ask you to do with your client. And what we do as the leaders of the agency is we wear the same bracelet, and it's so that we make sure that our caregivers feel safe, known, and loved as they're out there caring for our clients.
Yes.
Specific things we'll talk about today is to explain the nuances of dementia. A lot of folks, they hear dementia, they immediately think of Alzheimer's, and they use the words interchangeably. And a lot of folks don't realize that there are actually different types of dementia, of which Alzheimer's is one. So we'll chat about that for a second. Then we'll get into some differences and similarities, and then I'll get into some tips for how you could have some early success when you first walk into a client's home. So the bottom line is that not all dementia is the same. Some of your clients may be confused about the terminology, and you might hear a question such as, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? And you can explain it like this, that dementia, as you can see in the graphic here, dementia is an umbrella like cancer. Most people understand that cancer is a category of diseases, and symptoms vary depending on the type of cancer. Most people know that there are many different types of cancer, such as lung, skin, breast, colon, etc. While each of these is a separate disease, they're all cancer. Dementia terminology works the same way. Under the umbrella of dementia, there is Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, frontotemporal dementia, early onset dementia, and so forth. All of these are different and separate diseases. Vascular dementia is different from Alzheimer's dementia, but they're both dementia. So today, when you hear me say Alzheimer's, you'll know that I'm specifically referring to Alzheimer's disease, which is the most common type of dementia. When you hear me use the term dementia, you'll know that I'm referring to all types of dementia. And there are many conditions which may cause symptoms of dementia. When a person has symptoms of dementia, a doctor can conduct tests to identify the cause. One question that I tend to ask a lot of our clients is if they actually know what type of dementia that mom or dad has. And I usually get deer in the headlights when I ask that question. And then that's when I have this conversation and explain to them that there are different types of dementia. And though it's not always possible to determine which specific dementia someone might have, it's worth trying to find out. And so there are some tests that doctors can take a client through. And if they succeed in identifying a specific type of dementia, then we as caregivers can leverage what we know about that specific type of dementia to then adjust and personalize the care approach that we take for that person. Many people have symptoms and brain changes associated with more than one type of dementia, and in that case, it's what we call mixed dementia. And just imagine how complicated that can be. Does that make sense when we talk about the umbrella approach to explaining dementia?
Yes.
Okay. So it's important to understand that dementia is not just about memory loss. That's typically what people think of, loss of memory, dementia. While it's a common way to characterize various dementias, it's not necessarily accurate. Dementia impacts so much more than memory. It can affect any and every part of the brain, the client's ability to function, to stay healthy, and to understand the world around them. If we understand a more accurate, bigger picture of dementia, we're on our way to better understanding our client's care needs. So as you can see on here, this chart, and as you're probably already familiar with, there are some distinct differences in how each of the dementia types may impact a particular client. But I don't necessarily want to focus on the differences. If we can recognize that there are similarities across the different types of dementia, and then if we can prioritize some of our approach with what are the similarities, then you might actually have the opportunity to find some early success in approaching no matter what kind of dementia someone might have. So of the 14 specific areas where under similarities, as you can see there, if I backtrack just a second, under similarities, you'll see that there's preferences remain intact, lost abilities, and preserved abilities. All types of dementia have those particular characteristics as similar traits for each of them. And the one that I wanted to kind of focus on a little bit to help you specifically with whoever your client or family member may be is how you may be able to take advantage of knowing that there are certain abilities that are preserved across all types of dementia. And there are, on average, about 14 different areas of abilities that dementia clients actually preserve. Of those 14, 3 of the primary abilities that may be preserved for quite a long time are meaningful experiences, personal preferences, and a desire to make personal choices. So keeping those 3 key things in mind, you'll know that and you've probably already experienced it if you've worked with folks that have dementia, you'll know that that they remember a lot of the experiences that they've had in the past and how that's made them feel, and they tend to talk or refer to those things a lot. You'll know that they have personal preferences and they make them very clear to the point of making them anxious and frustrated if we don't recognize that and try to honor those preferences, as well as their desire to make personal choices based off of those preferences. So it's important for us to make sure that we approach someone with dementia by honoring and respecting the fact that some of these abilities are still preserved, and we can reduce anxiety. We can make connections with them by honoring these particular things. So just some low-hanging fruit for no matter what type of dementia someone might have for how you approach that. I did want to make sure that I leave you with some key tools that you can take with you immediately today. As a part of our Dementia Wise program, we offer what we specify as 12 tools for caregiver success in dementia care. Of those 12, here are 4. Check yourself before you ring the doorbell or before you walk into the room, before you engage with the client. Check yourself. Are you anxious? Are you unsure? Make sure that you are not showing it to the client or the client's family. What a lot of folks don't realize is that even though a client with dementia may not remember your name and may not remember you specifically, but they tend to remember how you've made them feel or how you're making them feel right now. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you check yourself. Make sure that you're presenting the right energy and that you are someone that's presenting yourself as someone who's acceptable in the situation. You also want to be prepared to make a warm, meaningful connection right away. Offer warm greetings, a warm, lingering handshake. I know that today we deal with COVID, and I'm probably going to offer up something to you here that goes against what the world is telling us. But there is such a thing as soap and water, so we can overcome this. But I still think that we as caregivers working with dementia clients, they need to see our face. They need to see the smile. They need to see that our eyes are connecting with them. Even if it's just for a moment, you take the mask off so they can see your face. You also want to grab their hand and hold it. Make sure that you have washed your hands before you've walked into the home or walked into the room. And then after you've held their hand and you've made that warm connection, you're going to want to make sure you wash your hands with soap and water afterwards. But there's nothing like that connection. I think it's one of the big tragedies of this whole pandemic going on today is the loss of that fellowship, the loss of that touch. And I think that if we follow proper infection control precautions, which first and foremost is washing your hands with soap and water, I think we can get back to that warm connection. The third one that I'll present to you today is to make sure that you enter the client's reality. If I'm going to be honest with you, this is the one thing that I spend most of my time advising clients' families on. In fact, just last week, I got a phone call from a client's daughter. She first was praising our caregiver, that she loves the caregiver, but the problem is that when the caregiver leaves, she doesn't know how to continue with that engagement with her dad. And she gets frustrated that her dad will wake up from a nap. He'll come walking out, and the first thing he does is he looks at her and says, "I want to go home," even though that is his home. He wants to go back to his home, and someone's coming to pick me up. When are they going to get here? And her immediate response is to tell him, "Hey, no, you're home. This is your home. Hey, come look at your room. This is where you sleep." And all that does is it escalates the situation, and it causes him to get frustrated because he's not being heard. She's not respecting his experience. She's not respecting where his mind is taking him. So we can think of people with dementia living in a different reality from ours, one that's governed by their travels through time and altered logic and reasoning. We cannot drag them out of that world. No matter how hard we try, we cannot drag them out of the world that they think that they're in into ours. Remember, this is a disease of the brain. If they could live in our reality, they would, but it just isn't possible. We can't change any of the rules of their reality because their brains are in charge of those rules. What we can do is travel to visit them where they live. Find them in their personal reality. Do everything within your power to avoid arguing, avoid correcting, and avoid trying to convince them that they're incorrect. That only escalates an already anxious client. So like I said, going back to my example, a client's dad, or the dad wakes up and the daughter says, or he says, "I want to go home." Her first inclination is that, well, this is your home. Rather than trying to bring him into our reality, the advice I always offer up is go with it. If he wakes up and says, "I want to go home, what am I doing here?" Then what you can do is have him talk about the home that he has in his mind. In her case, she knows the home he has in his mind because she's familiar with him. And so the advice I give her is, "Oh, are you talking about the house that had the red door?" "Yes." "Oh, wasn't that a fun house? What room did you sleep in that house? Did that house, it had gas, right? A gas stove?" And just get them talking about the home that's in their head. It leads you to a form of another tool, which is redirecting. But in order to effectively redirect, what you're first doing is you're joining them where they are, and you're not correcting them. What you're doing is you're validating the thought and the reality that they have in their mind, and you're de-escalating. I know that it sounds, a lot of folks will think that it sounds like you're manipulating. You're not. What you're doing is you're engaging them in a warm conversation with warm memories that they have of the home that's in their mind. And eventually in that conversation, you're going to find that they're no longer concerned about not being home. They're going to be happy that someone was talking about the home that's in their mind. And you may eventually de-escalate it and turn that conversation to something else that's a lot more healthy. It's not important for them to know that where they are right now is home. That's not what's important. What's important is that they feel safe, known, and loved. And then the last tool is to provide meaningful activities. While activities of daily living, which are the personal care types of things that we help with, which is the bathing, helping with toileting, getting around the house, all those kinds of things are essential to our clients' well-being. It's the meaningful activities that make for the meaningful experiences. The goal of meaningful activities is to bring passion, pleasure, and purpose to their lives. It increases the quality of life, not just for the clients that live with dementia, but it also does so for their families. Because when a family member's loved one is happier and having more meaningful experiences, life is better for everyone. You can make everything you do with a client a meaningful activity if you include certain elements. You know, from waking them up in the morning, through bathing, dressing, grooming, meals, and all the other stuff. Every activity of daily living has the potential to be a personalized, meaningful activity. Just make sure that whatever activity you bring into it, whether it's as you're helping them with the bath, maybe it becomes a dance. You put on music. Hey, let's dance. Rather than say, hey, let's take a bath, hey, why don't we dance? And you kind of turn it into a dance where you're dancing them into the shower. You want to make sure that it's interesting to them. Engage their senses, music, smells, conversation with them. Incorporate activities they enjoy, such as singing, telling stories, telling jokes. You know, they're far more engaged and they're not bored. And the more that you're engaging them with those senses, the less that they're going to focus on something that's out of our reality. And then you also want to make sure that you're customizing that meaningful activity specific to the client, their history, get to know what's important to them, their passions, their preferences. Remember, those are actually abilities that they maintain for much longer. So try to engage those particular abilities.
Okay.
All right, and remember, if you want to have success in dementia care, always remember that no matter whatever approaches that you're taking, remember that there are specific goals in mind. And the biggest goal is to create what we call better days. You need to be, as a caregiver, you need to be ready to flex. No client wakes up the same every time from a nap. So you want to make sure that you assess the mood, assess the day, be ready to adjust your approach. Try to get them to eventually accept some of the care tasks that you need to do with them, even if it doesn't work on the first try. And as we just discussed, make sure that you engage them in meaningful and purposeful activities. And remember, therapeutic goals that are in mind. You always want to ensure that there's an ongoing level of safety and well-being, that you're offering creative interventions to reduce challenging dementia behavior, and that you're encouraging physical activity. All of those things help to create better days while also potentially increasing someone's personal independence. All right, like I said at the beginning of this training, the two key goals. First was to increase the level of quality of care in the community. So we're here to help. Whether you work with us or not, you can always give us a call if you would like some advice or anything like that. At the end of this, we'd love to send you a tip sheet on some different types of dementia and how you can approach if you know what the specific type of dementia is. And you know, there is long-term professional dementia caregiving development that's available if you were to join our team. We've got all kinds of training. If you were to join our team, you could get what we call Dementia-wise certified, and then you could actually follow that up by getting a certification through the Alzheimer's Association.
Wow, that's great.
All right, and there's some contact information. You can Google us, just look for the ComForCare Home Care New Braunfels. If the phone number doesn't start with 830, you've got the wrong number. But yeah, depending on where you are, you know, there is an office in San Antonio. There's no problem with you working with that office either. In fact, we have occasionally, not currently, but we have occasionally had caregivers that have worked for both of us. And we're completely fine with that. And I thank you for joining. Do you have any questions or comments that you'd like to add before we adjourn?
I enjoyed this as it went deeper into the, training that I have had. and I wasn't aware there was different forms of dementia, not until you said so. So that was very helpful. You re-emphasized a lot of things that I had heard, for the most part, but it was very well done as far as I'm concerned, and very informative, and keeping up. And it is a good thing to know that there are ongoing classes, to help a person within that. So I'm glad that I did get on, and I'm glad that I am aware of your company. You sound very personal, and that you really care about what you're doing, that it's not just about money, and you didn't like rip through the webinar at all. It was just very good and a good feeling.
Well, I appreciate that, Sherry. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, you're a very
go ahead.
caring person.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how you can get into this world and not have compassion for the people you work with. So
that's a good thought. Keep on, because there's ones that don't. So I don't feel like y'all are about the money.
yeah. All right. Stephanie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
That'll do it. Thanks again for joining, and then we'll be in touch with you, Sherry. We hope you take the opportunity to join our team. Sounds like you would be a great member of our team to join and care for others. I agree with you. Matt is super compassionate and really does care about his caregivers and family members. And sounds like you value those same things, so it might be a great match.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And Sherry, don't hesitate. I know that the caregiver community can be, in some ways you can feel on your own, but in other ways you're connected with other caregivers. Don't hesitate to point them our way. We're always looking for great people to join our team.
Okay, sure. Yes,
All
I
right, so
definitely will.
we'll be in touch with you. Is the best way to get in touch with you with the email that you use to register?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. What's your direct phone number too? Because we'll follow up with a phone call.
Okay, it's 804
Mm-hmm.
205 7124.
Okay. Great. So we will give you a call
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
Right now, I came back, as I said, from Virginia, and in the Texas area, and I do want to stay here.
Good.
I'm helping out my son and his wife, who they're military. So it was on a spur of a moment thing, because they pulled her mother in from Missouri, because when they went to visit her, they were aware that she needed 24/7 care, and just got her out of that. And so they asked me if I wanted to come, and I said sure, and came over, and they are looking to place her, because she's really progressing, and a facility is a wise choice because of getting her interactive with others of her age and more stimulated, and things which can't be done. And so that's where that's going. And I'm not sure how much longer that I'm going to be needed here to stay at the house. So when that transition happens, I will be looking for work outside. So
just look us up.
Yes, I definitely will.
Yeah, if your family needs some assistance in finding a right place for her, let me know. I can point you in the right direction, maybe help you avoid some pitfalls.
Wonderful. I will relay that to them and get you back on it.
All right. Thanks again for your time, Sherry.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Matt.
Sherry.
Talk
Yes.
soon.
Okay.
All right. Thank y'all too.
All right.
Have a good
Thanks.
evening.
All right, you too. Bye.
Okay.